The printer jammed at 6:47 on a Tuesday, and that's the only reason any of this happened. You weren't supposed to be in his office. You were supposed to be home an hour ago, but the quarterly reports needed to go out, and the printer on your floor had eaten the last 3 pages of a 40-page document. And the only other printer in the building sat quietly humming in the corner of your boss's office. He'd already left. You had a badge that worked on every door in the building because somebody in IT never bothered updating access levels after your last promotion. So you went in. You printed your pages. And on your way out, you knocked a folder off the edge of his desk. It wasn't locked. It wasn't hidden. It was just sitting there, the way ordinary things sit in places you don't expect to find anything. Inside were bank statements. Old ones. Property deeds. A handwritten list of names you didn't recognize. Next to numbers that didn't make sense for a guy who drove a used Honda and packed his own lunch every day for the 11 years you'd worked under him. You'd always assumed he was comfortable. Everyone assumed that about him. He wore the same 3 sweaters on rotation. He never talked about vacations. He was, by every visible measure, an unremarkable man in an unremarkable mid-level office, the kind of boss you'd forget the name of a decade after leaving the company. But the numbers on that paper didn't belong to an unremarkable man. You picked the folder up to put it back exactly where it fell, and that's when you saw the date on the top statement. 18 years old. A balance that made you sit down in his chair without meaning to. You told yourself you'd just glance at it. You didn't. Here's what nobody tells you about people who quietly become wealthy. They don't look like it. The ones who look like it usually aren't. Not really. They're leveraged up to their eyeballs on a car they can't afford and a house that's actually the bank's. The real money hides in plain sight, dressed in sweaters bought on clearance, driving something with 200,000 miles on it, eating a sandwich from home at his desk every single day like it's nothing. You didn't understand any of that yet. You just knew you had questions, and the folder wasn't going to answer them by itself. So you did something you're not proud of. You took a photo of the first page. Just one. You told yourself it was for later, for context, for nothing in particular. You just needed to remember what you saw so you could figure out if it was real. Then you put the folder back, turned off the light, and walked to your car in a parking lot that suddenly felt different than it had 2 hours earlier. You didn't sleep that night. Not really. You lay there running the numbers, running the years, trying to make it add up to a version of your boss that made sense. A guy named Marcus, who'd been at the company almost as long as you'd been alive in the workforce, who never once mentioned a second income, an inheritance, a lucky break of any kind. The company paid well, but not that well. Nobody at your level, or even 3 levels above you, was sitting on numbers like that. By morning you had 2 choices. Forget what you saw and go back to pretending your boss was just a tired middle manager counting down to retirement. Or ask him. You picked the second one, though you told yourself for weeks afterward it was an accident, the way these things always start as accidents and become something else entirely. You waited almost a month before you said anything, and when you finally did, it wasn't planned. You were both staying late again, this time for real, the office empty except for the 2 of you and the hum of the vending machine down the hall. You asked him, half joking, how someone stays this calm about money for this long. You expected a laugh, a deflection, something forgettable. Instead, he set down his coffee, looked at you for a long moment, and asked what you actually wanted to know. That's when you told him. About the folder. About the photo you took and deleted 2 days later out of guilt. About not being able to stop thinking about it. You expected him to be angry. He wasn't. He looked almost relieved, like he'd been waiting 11 years for someone to finally ask the right question. What he told you that night didn't sound like a strategy at first. It sounded like a decision he made once, a long time ago, and never revisited. 18 years earlier, he'd been exactly where you were sitting. Same title, roughly. Same paycheck, adjusted for inflation. Same assumption that the job was the plan, and the plan was to work until you couldn't anymore. Then his father got sick, and the medical bills forced him to look at his finances in a way he never had before. Not to save more. To understand, for the first time, where every single dollar actually went. What he found embarrassed him. Not because he was reckless, because he was ordinary. He spent like everyone around him spent. He upgraded things he didn't need to upgrade. He treated his paycheck like a permission slip instead of a tool. So he made one decision. Not a system. Not a spreadsheet with 40 tabs. One decision. He decided that every raise, every bonus, every dollar of increased income for the rest of his working life would be treated as if it didn't exist. His lifestyle would freeze at exactly what it cost him that year, and everything above that line would go somewhere else. You asked him where somewhere else was, expecting something exotic. Crypto. Startups. Something with a story attached to it. It wasn't exotic. It was boring, almost deliberately boring. Index funds. Rental property bought slowly, one at a time, years apart, always with a mortgage he could survive losing his job for a year and still pay. A small business he never told anyone about, run quietly on weekends, that did nothing more exciting than power wash driveways and seal parking lots for local businesses. None of it made headlines. None of it would make an interesting story if you told it at a party. But 18 years of compounding boredom had turned into a folder full of numbers that made you sit down in his chair without meaning to. He told you the hardest part was never the investing. The hardest part was watching everyone around him upgrade their lives while his stayed frozen. Co-workers with new cars. Neighbors with pools. His own brother, for a while, treating him like he was cheap instead of understanding what he was actually doing. He said the sweaters weren't an accident either. He kept wearing them because every time someone assumed he couldn't afford something nicer, it confirmed the plan was working exactly the way it was supposed to. You went home that night and looked at your own numbers for the first time in longer than you'd like to admit. Not the ones you tell people. The real ones. What actually came in, what actually went out, and where the gap between them had been quietly disappearing for years without your permission. It wasn't a good feeling. It rarely is, the first time. But something about hearing it from a man you'd underestimated for over a decade made it land differently than it would have from a book or a video or a stranger online telling you to budget better. He wasn't selling anything. He wasn't trying to impress you. He'd kept it hidden for 18 years and only told you because you'd already seen the proof sitting on his desk. The months after that conversation didn't turn you into him. That's not how it works. And if anyone tells you it happened overnight, they're leaving something out. What changed first was smaller than that. You started asking a different question before every purchase. Not, can I afford this? Because you almost always could. The real question was whether the version of you 5 years from now would care that you bought it. Most of the time, the honest answer was no. You didn't freeze your lifestyle the way he had. You weren't willing to go that far. Not yet, maybe not ever. Because he'd told you, months before, that the number he'd been quietly building toward for almost 2 decades had finally arrived, and there was nothing left to prove by staying. His retirement party was small, exactly the kind of low-key gathering you'd expect from a man who spent 18 years disappearing into sweaters and used cars. Someone made a joke about him finally being able to afford a nicer jacket. He laughed along with it, the way he always did, and didn't correct anyone. You were one of maybe 4 people in that room who understood what was actually being celebrated. Here's the part you didn't expect. The folder wasn't the interesting part of the story anymore. Not really. What stuck with you wasn't the balance on that 18-year-old bank statement. It was the sweater, the Honda, the sandwich packed every single day for over a decade. It was the fact that the entire secret had been sitting in plain sight the whole time, disguised as a man nobody thought twice about. You think about that sometimes now, when you catch yourself sizing someone up based on what they're driving, or what they're wearing, or how they spend a Friday night. You think about how confidently wrong you were about a man you saw 5 days a week for 11 years. And you think about your own life the same way. Not what it looks like from the outside. What it actually is, underneath, in the numbers nobody else ever sees. You still have that folder in your memory, even though the photo is long gone. Not the numbers themselves. Those blur a little more every year. What stays clear is the moment right after you saw them, sitting in a chair that wasn't yours, in an office that wasn't yours. Realizing that the story you'd been telling yourself about a man for over a decade had been wrong the entire time. You wonder, sometimes, who's sitting across from you right now making the same mistake. The sweater, the lunch from home, the quiet, boring, decade-long decision nobody ever notices until it's already finished. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe you're just a person with a job and a paycheck and no folder waiting to be found. Or maybe, 18 years from now, someone's going to knock something off your desk by accident.